Welcome to the Two Rivers Café podcast, a place for music, chat, and, go on then, just one more glass of something cheeky before it's time to go home. I am your host, Andrew Fisher, and as a composer and lyricist, collaboration is one of the great pleasures in my working life. In this podcast, I talk to an eclectic mix of wildly talented people and then work with them to make a brand new piece that we'll unveil for you at the end of the episode. Will it always work? Let's find out. Hello everyone. I'm pleased today to be joined by the hugely talented session singer, vocal coach, and singer-songwriter, Lucy Potterton. Lucy has been a member of the Swingle Singers, a backing singer for Florence and The Machine on their 2015-16 World Tour, including headlining at Glastonbury, and she is a regular session singer for movie soundtracks, including scores to Avengers Endgame, The Hobbit, and Beauty and the Beast. As a vocal coach, she has been part of the team for ITV's The Voice UK and the BBC's Little Mix, The Search. Hi, Lucy. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest on the podcast. I'm blown away by the range of work you've done. Tell me, do you enjoy moving between different types of gig?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the most fun part of the job, to be honest, for me, because I'm trained in lots of different styles. So it's really great that I get to use that in everyday life, and every day is different. So, yeah.
Do they differ in terms of how you sing or how you prepare?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the session stuff that I do for the films is quite choral, so they want a lot of high, quiet singing and very, very pure. And then the backing singing is very pop. There's a lot of belty stuff in there. So yeah, very, very different types of singing.
And in terms of the things that you're asked to offer, I mean, I imagine with the choral singing, you here is a score, you read it, you sing it as it is. Do other types of music making give you an opportunity to contribute?
Yeah, I think in the pop world it's a lot freer. So we'll get a back. For instance, when I did Florence, we got a lot of the songs and the original arrangements in the album, and then we were kind of said, "Oh, can you pick out parts and find the ones that work best for you for a live version?" So that was really fun. I loved doing that.
Do you have to harmonise on the spot, or are you
Yeah, a lot of the time. I mean, I had a great partner, Rue Saville, who was doing that with me, the Florence thing, and we just worked really, really well together. We'd not met before, so this was the first gig we'd done together, and we clicked straight away, and I think musically and personality-wise, so that just became easy. We kind of worked stuff out together and then went and did it, and thankfully it worked really well.
One of you would go higher, one of you would tend to go lower, is that?
Yes, yeah, I was on the high stuff for that particular thing. So,
okay,
yeah.
Right. And in terms of picking up lyrics and things like that, would you say, let's say this word, or let's ooh this, or whoa this? I'm really curious about the details.
Yeah, I mean, it very much is like that. You'd kind of choose the bits that made the most sense, like things that Florence needed backing up on, for instance. In particular big moments, we'd sing the lyrics, and then other times we'd be a lot more sort of textural and in the oohs and woes and whatever, putting that in there as well.
And I know for me, moving from one type of gig to another, there's certain things we go, okay, we're in a studio now, I know what this is about. When you were coming to be on stage in the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury, were you was that a different moment? You were like, whoa.
I mean, yeah, it was like another otherworldly experience for me. I think it was very strange. I'd obviously done big gigs before. Up until that point, we'd done a little run up to Glastonbury, but I don't think anything had prepared me for it, to be honest, because that for me was something I'd grown up watching on television. The first big gig we ever did was Coachella, and that for me didn't feel as big as Glastonbury. Glastonbury for me, I think looking out on the crowd, I couldn't see the end of the crowd, and I think that was the most amazing thing, because it was really dark, and I think I saw a couple of people light some flares, and then I'd see the flags light up in the distance and go, that's not the end of the crowd. It just felt amazing.
It goes on and on.
It goes on.
Yes. There must be tens of thousands of people. Amazing. I can't imagine how wonderful it must be. And after that gig, were you like, I have done something now that is sort of monumental. Did you feel that?
Well, I guess. I mean, that was the beginning of the tour, so I think I was just really excited more than anything. And I didn't really believe it was my life, to be honest, and still don't.
Someone else did that, yes.
Yeah, someone else did that, very much feels like that. But I think when I was doing the gig, I was really aware of how big it was for me to do that, because it meant so much to, it was kind of what I'd been leading up to, I guess, my whole career. And I knew what it was, and I tried to really make the most of it in the moment. And I'm glad that I did, because I think if I hadn't, I'd sort of look back and go, oh, you know, it wouldn't have I wouldn't have the nice feeling that I do when I look back on it now. So yeah, I think I was just excited for the future, and yeah, thankfully it's been like, time's been very good to me, so I'm very grateful for that.
Lucy, as you know, with the podcast, we'd like you to pick one of 3 possible concepts to act as a springboard for creative ideas. Are you ready?
I am indeed, yes.
The 3 ideas this week are search, return, and celebrate.
Ooh, I think search. I don't know why, but it sounds interesting.
Do you know, when I saw the list, that was the one I was going to pick.
Okay,
and that
good.
was the one I was really hoping you would pick. So that's
awesome.
a real win. That's good. I was really hoping you wouldn't pick Celebrate, because lyrically that becomes just a series of already brilliant songs that other people have written. Thank you, Stevie Wonder. So it's kind of like, where do we go? So search that's fantastic. What appeals to you about this idea?
I think it actually relates to some of the stuff that I've written in the past, and I think it resonates more with my style, more than anything else, to be honest, because there's always like an element of kind of looking for something in the songs that I've written. So yeah, I think that it feels like home.
Yeah, and absolutely. There's a questioning quality to it that I know for me is very much who I am as well. This thing of, here is the thing, and I know I'm always asking, what is it? Rather than, oh great, it's here. What am I meant to do with
this?
Yeah. So there's that really does appeal about that. I'm very excited to see what we both come up with, and I think the ball is in my court first. So the plan is, I will write a lyric, send it to you, and then you will do the melody and harmony, and then we'll go from there. Before we talk about our collaboration, I'd like to ask you about your relationship with creativity. As a youngster, did you always have the creative impulse to write your own songs?
Oh, I mean, yes, I think so. When I was about 10 or 11, I started a band with my best friend,
Right.
And she was the rapper and I
Okay.
was the singer. So it was an interesting band, and I had a little 4-track tape recorder that my parents bought me, and I loved it. I absolutely loved this thing. And obviously days before we could really, I was doing digital stuff. I wasn't doing it. I was just was only about 10. So yeah, I had this thing, and I had a drum machine as well, actually. And I wasn't brilliant at my instruments at that point, enough to, write the backings and stuff. So I just had this drum machine. I'd play the demos, but they had all these extra little fills and stuff. So I'd put in all the fills, and I'd create like a backing track. Then I'd put my voice on top, and then I'd put some harmonies in, and then my friend would come in and she'd put her rap over the top.
Yeah,
and we created this little album of songs, and I've got the little tape somewhere at home, and I listened to it I think about a few weeks ago, actually. And it's hilarious. It's really hilarious, some of the stuff we came out with. But I don't know. I think I look back on that time, and I was just so free to write whatever I wanted, and it was nice to do it with a friend, and yeah, I loved it.
Do you find ideas and inspiration come easily to you? Are you sort of constantly sitting there humming a tune in your head, or do you have to sort of sit down and say, no, we must prepare for the moment, and then you sort of take it in a venerated way? What do you like?
Oh, I have quite a weird relationship with it, to be honest. I think I kind of flip between so many different things that actually sitting down and having the time to be creative, or actually just getting down and doing it, I'm really bad at doing that. So sometimes, I feel like my favourite song I've ever written, I did it in about 10 minutes, which is what a lot of people say. I think when something comes to them, they're like, right, it's down.
And just there it is. It's like the idea hit you. It's been travelling around the world.
Exactly.
It suddenly hit you, completely formed, and you're like, all I'm doing is sort of taking dictation. Yeah.
But then other times you'll sit there for hours and hours, and you're like, I just don't have anything, and you're really trying hard, and it just doesn't come together. So I think for me, I'm always putting stuff on my phone. I'm always doing little ditties, and I've got about, hundreds of them on my phone that just aren't complete songs. And one day I might go back to it and kind of work something out. But I find I'm not very disciplined with doing it. Like I think I probably should be, I guess, with making sure I'm just doing it. And so then when the thing comes, I'm ready for it. I'm prepared for it to arrive, almost like that idea of the inspiration just sort of hitting you at a point.
It's really hard to know as well. I can really relate to something you just said there about this sort of question of, am I doing it right? Like have I...
Yeah.
Is there a better way to be me? Is there a superior version of me that's much better at admin? Or
there's definitely
that would know to
me.
record. Do you come back to your phone memos and actually try and sort of re-engage with them?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when I'm collaborating, I'll go. If I'm doing something with a friend or someone that I'm working with, I'll go and I'll be like, well, I've got all of this stuff. Is there anything we can maybe work from there? Because I find it's a nice starting off point, and it doesn't feel so pressurized to be like, I've got to come up with something right now, which is amazing. I'll be like, well, I quite like this. Do you reckon we can start with that and then move forward? I do come back to them all the time, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's a very different experience. I mean, people talk about music making, don't they? And there's something about the creative act. Being there is a very different experience to singing something. Are you really aware of that difference between creativity and performance?
Oh, definitely. I think when I'm writing as well, I tend to write sad songs.
Right.
I don't know why, I just do. Even when I was 10 or 11, I was writing songs about heartbreak, and I'd never, been heartbroken at all, but I was really drawn to that type of song. And that's what I write about now, and that's how I deal with my feelings a lot of the time. So when I'm writing, I'm often not in a great place, I guess, emotionally. So I'm putting all this stuff, and it's like a catharsis for me just to put it out, and that's why I do it, I think, because it just gives you that release. And a lot of the stuff I'll write and I'll think, oh, no one's going to hear this, and that's fine, because I don't write a diary or anything like that, but I will put my feelings into songs, and I feel so much better once it's a song. I'm like, oh, I've created that bad thing happened, but this is what I got out of it, and that's a good thing.
When you explore the sadness, do you end up with that in mind, if you write a sad song during a happy time and you're sort of okay with that, do you then become sad because you're remembering the sadness, or are you like, oh wow, no, this is like a sort of point of archaeology almost, that this thing was sort of embedded down into me, and do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
and now you're able to examine it with some distance.
I think I sort of fluctuate between states anyway quite quickly. So I can be sad about one thing and then the next day I'll be absolutely fine. And I don't think I think that's just part of me. As I'm getting older, I'm sort of learning a bit more about myself. I'm like, okay, that's just how I am. And I loved looking at old photographs of people that, I loved in my life and all that sort of stuff. And I get sad in that moment, but happy sad as well, because you remember the good things. And then the next day I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine again. But I feel like I like to do that because the past creates who you are in the present, and I don't want to sort of discount that. I think it's all made me who I am today, and that's a good thing, really.
Lucy and I are going to go away and create something. Our word is search. I need to write a lyric, and very quickly, and Lucy then needs to write some music, and we will be back soon. 48 hours have passed since we recorded the last bit, and in that time, this is what's happened. In the first 6 hours, I wrote a lyric based on the word search, which I then sent to Lucy, and she wrote a song, a melody with chords, and she played it on guitar, did backing vocals, sang it very beautifully, and then sent it back to me, and I've attempted to add an orchestration to it. So I sent it to you. When you received it, what did you think?
I mean, I loved it. I thought that there were some really great lines in there, and I just really enjoyed trying to fit them into something that I was thinking about. So just in terms of, I guess, like the meter and things like that, I sort of struggled a little bit to kind of work out where you were coming from in that sense. And I thought, well, I'll try this and see if it works. and then just picking out the little bits that worked rhythmically. I sort of pieced it together like a puzzle, I guess, and then I thought, oh no, that bit works there. And there was actually one line that I did change. I think there were a couple of lines I changed just very slightly, just to fit with the timing, basically. And there was one line that I said once, and then you'd originally written it twice, and I just sort of cut the second one and said the last bit of it. It seemed to, for me, that worked a bit better with what I was doing. But yeah.
This is so much the rule of collaboration, isn't it? Where it so much depends on how much space you give the other person to say, "Can I just tweak?" And some people can be, "Yeah, tweak away," and other people are like, "No, it's what it is." and you have to sort of manage that. But I was very happy for you to make adjustments. That was absolutely fine, and everything that you did was absolutely spot on. Interestingly, I had a very, very different rhythm in my head because I also composed.
Okay.
I sort of had my own version of the song and a different meter. And when I heard it, I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's so different." And it's funny as well because there's a space that we give to words when we use them that can totally impact on their meaning. That if something is fast, it adds a intensity to it, and if something is much more spaced out, and I felt that you spaced it out quite a lot, and I thought that was actually a great gift. That was just a fabulous offer straight away, just to say, "Whoa, slow down," because mine was going.
That's really interesting that you said that, because I was wondering. I wonder how you've heard it in your head, because you obviously written it, and then you've probably got a melody in your own head and a rhythm and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, and there's a point of when you give it to someone else, you're like, I've got to now let go of this. Like I can't hover.
Yeah.
Like a worried parent saying, "Is it going to be all right? No, don't do that. Don't do that." You don't want, and so you really have to sort of let it go and say, it's now Lucy's. She's going to do what she will with it. So when you look at a lyric, do you start at the first line or do you say it through and try and get a rhythm, or what's your process?
I always start with the first line, to be honest, and then I will work out what I want the chorus to be. So I'll start with a vague idea of like the key center and all that sort of stuff with that first line, and then I'll go to the chorus and work out which bit I want to highlight.
Yeah.
And then that will sort of become my base, and then everything else kind of works itself out from there. With this song, I went a bit rogue, I guess, because I think in terms of, like you said, with the spacing out of the lyrics, that's quite interesting, because in the very first line, I took the word easy and I made it really long.
Yes.
And I imagine that for your ears was probably like, oh no, that wasn't what I had in mind at all. Like, why is she highlighting that word?
Yeah. To be honest, the thing that I've learned is that when someone has a different opinion, it actually takes quite a lot of experience to sit with your feelings and not comment on them, to kind of really school your face so that you don't, make an expression. And even I sat there in my study, just there's no one around, but I was still just trying to still myself, just to sort of be present with your offer. And that's, I have to say, for me, that's been a hard learn, that I twitch probably as soon as I hear something that isn't what I'm expecting. And I'm learning still to sort of manage my twitch. And then what's weird is, the more that you spend time listening to something, the more you get used to it. And so sometimes the things that you end up loving the most, well, I end up loving the most, are the things that initially I was like, I'm not sure about this. Mm-hmm. And then you spend a bit more time. And so I think there's a patience in listening that's really rewarding in the end. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree with that. I find that also having, like, listening to things a little bit more, I like it more when I've written something and I come back to it another day. I'll always be like, oh, actually, yeah, I do like that thing. And even if I feel maybe vocally, oh, that wasn't the best vocal take I've done, I'll come back to it a day later and listen to it, and I'll go, oh, actually, it's all right. I'm happy with it. I don't know why I didn't like it before. And so it's a really good thing to sit with something and then come back to it, I think.
Absolutely, there are fickle moods. And there's something else that I've learned. I really got this from this experience, was the last hour of a long session being creative is, in my experience, often the most desperate. It's the most kind of self-doubting one. Yeah. That your relationship with your own material can change so much in a 6-hour period. Whereas, in hour 1 you don't mind and you're sort of free with it, then hour 4 you're like, this is going really well. And then hour 6, what have I done? I've ruined it all. This is terrible. and then just not to throw it away at that point, and just
Yeah.
go to bed and to do something different. Can I ask, harmonically, as when you do this, do you sing and play, or do you just sing?
I always sing and play because obviously guitar is not my forte. It's definitely my voice is the thing that carries everything. So I think I have to be able to play my accompaniment essentially. So I think I said in the earlier talk we had about that was one of my weaknesses, is that I actually I kind of feel a little bit limited by my harmonies and stuff like that, which I was so grateful for you coming in and changing it quite a lot in that sense, because I thought, it adds all this interest that that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting. We'll come to that question about arrangement later. You were very gracious, by the way, because again, this is part of the collaboration. So one thing I really felt with this is that not being in the room, because this is all happening during COVID, there's so much dialogue that was needed, and I really wanted to talk to you a lot more than we had a few texts, and Lucy gave me a lot of kind of mix. That was the that was the thing. It was, bring us down in the mix, bring this one up, this line here. And for me, I was just so reassured, because one of the great principles I live by is quality is found in detail, and if you want to work with someone of quality, listen to how much detail they say. You know what I mean? Because that's another. I see it as a gift. If the detail is good, if it's specific, if someone really has a clear vision of how something should work, that's a huge reassurance. Do you know what I mean? And I definitely felt that. I was like, okay, yeah, she's on it. She knows what she wants. She knows what she can hear here.
Yeah.
But there was, my goodness, with the lyric, I almost wanted to call you afterwards and change some lines, because there were expressions. I was like, I don't know. Anyway, and can I ask another question with chords? And this is me as a piano player. Do you find that your hands or your instincts go into certain formulations that you tend to say, I'm going to start on chord 1, or I know that G fits my voice, so I'm going to start in G. And is it quite an effort to try to start somewhere else?
It is, definitely, and I end up writing really. If I write a song in a certain place where I'm comfortable and I know that thing quite well, a lot of the time my songs sound the same if I write it in that same place, and then I'll move to another place. I'm like, oh, this is very different. It brings out a different side of me when I do that. So as I get a little bit better at accompanying myself, I do start to explore those things a little bit more, which is something that I really like, obviously. So yeah.
I definitely felt that 6 hours, which is the sort of time I had before I thought, which we sort of initially discussed, was nothing like enough. I was really struggling. And it's an interesting concept about, songwriting, any form of creative endeavour, is how long does it take? And of course it varies from art form to art form. But I thought if I had another 6 hours, I could do a much better job. Did you feel the same?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that comment you said earlier about sort of coming to the end of it, and you were like, hour 4 is great, and then hour 6 is sort of what have I done? But I think by the time I'd got to hour 6, I think it was like 12 o'clock, 1 a.m. or something. I think that's when I sent it to you, and I was just like, well, I have to finish it, I have to get it done. And I kind of liked that, and I kind of didn't, in a weird way, because I felt like, because I really just, as soon as I finished teaching for the day, I sort of spent that next 6 hours just absolutely head down doing it, recording it, getting it done, sending it over. And that for me was like, well, I have to do it. Whatever I'm coming out with, it was pretty much like the first chord sequence I found that worked was like, yep, that'll do. And then the next thing that I did, I worked out the lyrics. Sorry, you worked out the lyrics, but I worked out how to fit them into the tempo and all that stuff. So I was like, yep, that works too. So it was very much just a process. As soon as I found something that works, I went with it, because I knew I was on a time constraint. And also coming back to the arrangement, how you feel like you put lots and lots of stuff in. I felt like when I ended up listening to my one again once I'd sent it to you, but also when I heard yours, I was like, oh, I've gone too far as well with my backing vocals, because obviously that's what I know.
Yeah.
I just was like, yeah, put it in here. But then I think it could have done with just taking it away a little bit. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We should definitely have a listen to this song now. So I've called the song Nocturne, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
When Lucy sent it to me, she called it Andy Song, which which I thought was really...
Because I was in a rush. I was like, I didn't even look at the title of the song. I was like, yep.
So we should decide what we should call this, whether it's called
I think Nocturne's better. That was very much a working title.
Without further delay, here's Nocturne, with lyric by me and music and vocals by Lucy Potterton.
Still I'm searching for you, who know the hidden places of my soul, and welcome me with easy understanding, and wanna see my broken heart made whole. Stars are humming music like a nocturne. I'm reaching out through the ice cream air. Can you hear it? Can you see it? Are you reaching out to me? Tell me, darling, are you there? I'm more alone than ever before. Yet I know I do not choose to stand apart. Is there a kindred spirit who hears the music too? Who holds the missing pieces of my heart? Of my heart. Da 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 da. The wind is dancing gently in the moonlight, like something sacred, whispered like a prayer. Can you hear it? Can you see it? Are you reaching out to me? Tell me, darling, are you there? I'm more alone than ever before. Yet I know I do not choose to stand apart. Is there a kindred spirit who hears the music too? Who holds the missing pieces of my heart? Of my heart. Of my heart. I'm more alone than ever before. Yet I know I do not choose to stand apart. Is there a kindred spirit who hears the music too? Who holds the missing pieces of my heart? Of my heart.
You have such a warmth, really, as just that your voice, you're blessed, but there's a kind of warmth, and when with the harmonies, and you get 4 times the warmth. And I think also where you've resolved, so to finish on chord 5 and this unresolved thing, and then to say of my heart, that's a masterstroke. That's really lovely. That's genius.
Thank you.
So that once we'd done that, so Lucy sent that back to me last night, and I had a listen, and then I started work the following day, and I spent about probably 10 hours on the arrangement, and I worked really, really hard. And as I'm talking now, I'm at that stage of thinking, I think I probably ruined it. That
You didn't at all.
There's a thing that Shakespeare says, and I think it's King Lear. He says, "Striving to better, oft we mar what's well." And I think there's a lot of truth in that. That there's a kind of the kind of temptations to add more can be very bewitching, and even there's a point where you're like, okay, I've added too much. There's something that's beautiful and pure and simple about that, that should be as it is, rather than there should be more, can be added. And I think maybe in the end there's a middle ground between what I ended up doing and what and what you did. And I think that would come, again, working with live musicians, don't you think? That
Yes, definitely. And I had the same issue with my own arrangement, just listening to that back as well. Yeah, I just feel like, oh, I put too many backing vocals in there. There's just I can hear it so much better if it's, I mean, you can really just hear the lead vocal, and that's the bit for me that should really come across. So if I'd have stripped that back a little bit more, I just got excited by putting all this stuff in, and I almost forgot, oh, hang on a second, Andy's going to come in and do loads of really cool stuff over the top anyway, so I don't need these extra backing vocals. I think because I'm so used to doing stuff on my own, that I was like, oh, I have to fill it out, whereas actually if I'd have left it a bit more, would have given you more space, I think, to put all that stuff in. So yeah, that was my thoughts on it.
I think now that this song would be better with a small scale ensemble. That if there was going to be an arrangement of it, a sort of a quintet, piano, guitar, bass, and some backing singers, and that's the stripped back vibe. I think is probably right for the song. But when I came to hear it, I think I was with my arranging hat on. I make no apology. I really like orchestral romantic music, Mahler, Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, Dvorak. I adore it. I listen to it and I was trying to pick up on a kind of pain in the lyric. You know what I mean? That there was a kind of nuance. There's a kind of where the rub is in terms of harmony. And so when I heard what you did, I was like, okay, I can reharmonize that. And I wonder if I did it too much. So when you heard the reharmonies, were you like, God?
No, not at all. I just listened and went, I wish I'd have thought of that. I wish I'd have done that. And I imagine for you, probably with saying, oh, I've gone over the top, I've done this, I've done that. Maybe it, like, I don't know, is there potentially that there's something in your brain from what you'd originally imagined what the piece was going to be like, I don't know, and then I'd come in and made it really different, so there was wanting to put back in the original idea, which I totally understand. I don't know if that I'm just sort of putting that out there. I don't know.
Absolutely, it's kind of working with your own instincts and to sort of manage yourself as well. That I think where I'm at in my development, I probably needed to do this, but I've definitely come to the conclusion, having done it, that I shouldn't have done it. And I think there's a halfway house that you get to sometimes after you've made an offer, and so much about the creative act, I think, is about making offers, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think that's what I love about collaboration, is that you can, I almost, because I obviously texted you this morning and said, oh, I think maybe I did a bit too much on this and could we maybe change that, and I wondered whether I should, but that's what I like about collaborating, is like just going back and saying, oh, actually, can we do this, and then you come back saying, oh no, I think this, and that's great. So
can I ask, would you next time would rather write the lyric? Yes and no, just because I think it would be a really interesting reversal. I'm happy writing either, really, which is why I was like, oh, just whatever. But I love writing lyrics as well, so yeah, I think maybe we'd probably end up with something like different harmonies, more interesting musical stuff going on if you'd have done all the music first and I'd written the lyric. I don't know. Lucy, it's an utter pleasure to work with you.
Thank you so much.
I think I'd like to share my work in progress on the orchestral arrangement. So, here's Nocturne by Lucy Potterton and me, Andrew Fisher.
Still I'm searching for you, who know the hidden places of my soul and welcome me with easy understanding, and wanna see my broken heart made whole. reaching out through the ice cream air? Can you hear it? Can you see it? Are you reaching out to me? Tell me, darling, are you there? I'm more alone than ever before, yet I know I do not choose to stand apart. Is there a kindred spirit who hears the music too? Who holds the missing pieces in my heart? Of my heart. The wind is dancing gently in the moonlight, like something sacred, whispered like a prayer. Can you hear it? Can you see it? Are you reaching out to me? Tell me, darling, are you there? I'm more alone than ever before, yet I know I do not choose to stand apart. Is there a kindred spirit who hears the music too? Who holds the missing pieces of my heart? Of my heart. Of my heart. I'm more alone than ever before, yet I know I do not choose to stand apart. Is there a kindred spirit who hears the music too? Who holds the missing pieces of my heart? Of my heart.
Can I just say, I love how you use my little Annie Lennox thing loads throughout the whole,
Yeah, no, it was such an
song,
offer.
and you
I mean,
ended
for
on
me,
it.
I was like, that's the counter melody. That
Yeah.
every song has a thing where you
Yeah.
go, oh, that's a keeper. That one right there. That was, and for me,
Yeah.
you called it the Annie Lennox thing, which I just thought was
Yeah.
perfect because I adore Annie Lennox as well. She's
Oh my gosh, yes.
as
so
a vocalist,
much.
but as a person as
Yeah.
well, she's just
Yeah.
amazing as a person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but that and you aced it as well. I was like, yeah, you've.
It just, I don't know why, it just felt like it should be in there.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like, it doesn't
lovely,
really relate. But then, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to put it in because I love her, and yeah, it ended up in the song. So.
They're wonderful. I so he listens to that arrangement. I just think it's. I now, you know, that time I quite liked it. I was,
Yeah.
but maybe there's just taking a few more things out. You know, there's a fun. It's like a cake with too many decorations on or something.
Yeah, but there's still some really amazing moments in there. I loved the space that you gave before I came in with a few of the choruses, and I'm really sort of, when that just all ended, and then I was like, oh wow, that's so much. There's so much like tension, but beautiful tension that was like, and then I come in and it's great. So I loved all of that. I mean, I loved the whole thing, but yeah, we're our own worst critics a lot of the time.
Always.
Anyway,
There's
so,
no.
you know.
I don't have a worse critic than myself, but usually what happens is when someone else says anything says something like it's not my favorite, or to be honest, and then whatever that is, that joins with my worst critic. So there's two of them now.
Right. Oh, oh no.
And someone says, I didn't say I didn't like it, and you're like,
Yeah.
But you didn't love it. Yeah, horses for
dear.
courses
Yeah.
in the end. Lucy, thank you so much.
Thank you
it's
so
been
much.
a joy and an honour. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for joining me in the Two Rivers Café, and thanks again to Lucy Potterton for her time, talent, and patience. You can find out more about Lucy's career, including her online vocal school, The Vox Room, via her website, a link to which is in the episode description. This is also the place to find out more about my life as a composer. My name is Andrew Fisher, and this episode of the Two Rivers Café podcast was produced remotely, as ever, by Jim and Rupert of Driver 8. If you enjoyed it, then please tell your friends to subscribe. But in the meantime, why not grab a piece of paper, write down a few lyrics of your own, and you'll be halfway to your first hit single. Goodbye.